Welcome back to the deep dive.
So today we're doing something a little bit different. We
Yeah.
usually talk about these big abstract concepts, trends, philosophy, future tech. But today we are getting our hands dirty. We are tackling the spreadsheet of doom.
The spreadsheet of doom. I think every professional has at least one of these in their life. It's that one file you just dread opening.
You know the one. It's got like 17 tabs. The formatting is completely broken. Three different people have highlighted cells in three different shades of yellow, and you have no idea what any of it means.
Hmm.
And we're looking at this specifically through the lens of supply chain management. You've got shipments late, suppliers ghosting you, systems glitching, and it's all just rows and rows of text.
It's the classic data trap. You have all the information, but you have zero insight. You're just drowning in the details.
So our mission today is to pull you out of that water. We're going to take a stack of messy, chaotic problems and turn them into a command center.
And we're doing it in Excel, right? Using a tool that everyone has installed, but I mean, almost nobody uses correctly, Microsoft Excel.
And to be clear, we aren't just talking about making a list look pretty. We are doing a deep dive into a specific tutorial from Discover Talent that walks through building a fully functional, automated risk assessment dashboard.
This is not, here's how to bold text. This is like building a little app, basically, inside of Excel. We're going from a blank white screen to a dashboard with traffic light logic, donut charts, and automated counting.
It's that shift from being a data entry clerk to being a data architect. And what I really appreciate about this source material is that it focuses on the psychology of the user. It's not just what formula do I type, it's how does a human brain process panic.
Okay, so let's crack this open. You open Excel, you've got that grid of empty cells. Staring at a blank spreadsheet is kind of intimidating, isn't it?
It is. It's the blank canvas problem. And usually people just start typing in cell A1. They type date, then item, and they just start listing problems.
That's what I do. Is that wrong?
It's not wrong, but it's reactive. The source emphasizes a psychological shift right at the start. You don't start with data, you start with structure.
Okay.
The very first thing you do is take that top row, merge the cells all the way across the screen, and create a massive, bold header, supply chain risk assessment.
That sounds like such a cosmetic step. Like, who cares about the title?
But it creates a boundary. It tells your brain and anyone else opening the file, this is not a scratch pad, this is a formal tool. It sets the stage.
Right.
But then you have to define the columns. And this is where most people mess up. They add columns as they think of them. Oh, I should probably track the date. Oh, maybe I need a phone number.
And 3 weeks later, you have this monster with, like, 50 columns.
Exactly. The tutorial breaks it down into the critical few. You need a risk ID. Simple, 1, 2, 3.
Why do we need an ID? Can't we just use the row number?
You could, but if you sort the data, the row numbers change. A hard-coded ID risk number 42 stays risk number 42 forever. It's about data integrity. Then you have the role or process, basically who or what is broken, and then the big three of risk assessment.
Okay, I assume these are the standard ones. Severity, likelihood, and impact.
Correct. And you have to keep them separate. Severity is, how much does it hurt if it happens? Likelihood is it actually going to happen?
Right. They're different questions.
Totally different. If you mix those up, you prioritize the wrong things. A meteor hitting the warehouse has a very high severity, but a very low likelihood. You shouldn't spend all day worrying about it.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I also noticed the source includes accountability columns, assigned to, necessary action, and status. This feels like the part that usually gets left out. We list the problem, but we don't list the owner.
That's the bystander effect in spreadsheet form. If a cell doesn't explicitly say, Bob is fixing this, Bob creates a psychological narrative that someone else is on it. By forcing an assigned to column, you are assigning responsibility before the meeting even starts.
So, to make this concrete, the source uses some dummy data that feels very real. Supplier failure, port delays, system breakdowns. Just reading those stresses me out.
It's a stressful industry, and that's why the setup phase is so crucial. The expert in the tutorial spends a weird amount of time just adjusting column widths and text wrapping.
I wanted to ask about that. It seemed a little obsessive. Like, do we really need to worry about column width before we've even done the math?
We do. Think about cognitive load. If system breakdown is cut off and reads system by error, your brain has to stop, click the cell, and read the formula bar to understand what's happening.
Okay.
It takes 2 seconds. If you have 50 rows, that's 100 seconds of wasted brain power. If the data isn't readable instantly, the dashboard has failed before you've even written a single formula.
Okay, so we've got our grid. It's readable, it's structured, but it's still just a wall of text. Now we need to make it speak. This is where the tutorial moves into what I'd call visual intelligence.
This is where we stop reading and start scanning. And the source uses conditional formatting to create a traffic light system.
Red, yellow, green. It's universal.
It is. High impact gets red, medium gets amber, low gets green. But I want to talk about how they apply it, because the host in the video does something that really caught me off guard.
Are you talking about the shortcut?
I am.
Ctrl plus Q.
Yeah.
I've been using Excel for 15 years. I usually go to the Home tab, click Conditional Formatting, click Highlight Cells Rules, click Text that contains. It takes 5 clicks.
And that's the friction point. The tutorial shows that if you just highlight your data and hit Ctrl plus Q, the quick analysis tool, it pops up right there next to your cursor.
Wow.
1 click for text contains, type high, pick red, done.
It's so much faster. But beyond the speed, why are we obsessed with colors? Is it just to make it look pretty for the boss?
No, it's actually about filtering. When you present this to a stakeholder, or even when you look at it yourself on a Monday morning, you shouldn't be reading. You should be pattern matching. Your brain is wired to spot red as a threat. You ignore the green. You worry about the red. It effectively creates a visual filter without you even touching a filter button.
So it's directing attention.
It's triage.
Okay, so the front end looks good. We have colored boxes. But a dashboard needs an engine. It needs to do math. And this is where the tutorial does something that I think a lot of casual users don't do. They create a secondary sheet.
The raw sheet, or S1 as they label it.
Why do we need a second sheet? I mean, why not just put the totals at the bottom of the list like I usually do?
Because that's how you break things. If you put your calculation tables on the same sheet as your data entry, eventually someone is going to insert a row or delete a column and shift all your references. Or they'll just scroll down and overwrite your totals by accident.
So it's a separation of church and state.
Ideally, yes. Think of it like a restaurant. The dashboard is the dining room. It's clean, quiet, organized. The raw sheet is the kitchen, messy, noisy, doing all the heavy lifting. You don't want the customer seeing the kitchen.
That makes a lot of sense. So in this kitchen, we're calculating the totals. How many high risks? How many low risks? And the tutorial uses COUNTIF.
A staple function. COUNTIF just looks at a range and counts how many times a certain criteria appears. Count if this column says high.
Now, I have to play devil's advocate here. Why are we using formulas? Why not just insert a pivot table? I mean, pivot tables are built for this.
That is the great Excel debate. A pivot table is easier to set up, yes, but a pivot table requires a refresh. If you add a new risk to the list, the pivot table won't show it until you right-click and hit refresh.
And if I forget to hit refresh...
You're presenting old data. A formula, like COUNTIF, is live. As soon as you type high in the main sheet, the dashboard updates instantly.
Okay.
For a command center that needs to be always on, formulas are often safer than pivot tables.
But formulas are fragile, aren't they? The source makes a really big point about typos.
This is the garbage in, garbage out problem. The COUNTIF formula is looking for the specific string likely. If you, in your hurry, type likely with a space at the end,
the formula sees a different word.
And it counts it as 0. You could have a high-impact risk that is completely invisible to your dashboard just because you hit the spacebar by accident.
That is terrifying. You could be reporting 0 risks to your boss while the building is on fire.
That is exactly why the data validation step later on is so critical. You cannot rely on people to type correctly. You have to force them to be correct.
Well, we'll get to that lockdown phase in a minute, but first I want to touch on the scoring. Because high, medium, low is great, but sometimes you need numbers. The raw sheet assigns manual scores to severity.
Right. They create a weighted scale. Fatality, the worst case scenario, gets a 5. Major injuries get a 4. Minor injuries a 2.
It sounds a bit cold to assign a number to a fatality.
It is cold. But risk management is about quantification. You have to weigh the unthinkable against the inconvenient.
True. But here is the part that really made me stop and think. It's how they calculate the total risk for the leadership view. This was a real wait a minute moment for me.
The leadership view calculation, this is fascinating.
So if I ask you what is the total risk, I expect you to add up every single item on the list. You know, if there are 50 items, the total is 50. But the source doesn't do that.
No. They explicitly filter the calculation. The dashboard calculates total risk as the sum of high impact plus medium impact.
And the low ones.
They completely ignore the low-impact risks in the total count.
They just leave them out. Isn't that lying?
It's not lying, it's curation. And there is a very strong philosophy here. If you go to your VP of supply chain and say, we have 100 risks, they will panic, they'll freeze.
Okay.
But if you look closely, 80 of those risks are things like printer out of paper or coffee machine acting up.
Low impact noise.
Exactly. If you include the noise in the signal, you dilute the urgency. By ignoring the low impact items in the headline number, you are telling leadership, these are the things that actually require your attention.
So if everything is a risk, nothing is a risk.
Precisely. The dashboard is opinionated. It says, we are not going to talk about the small stuff. And that's a bold move, but for a command center, it's the right move.
I really like that distinction. A dashboard isn't just a mirror reflecting everything. It's a lens focusing on the important stuff.
Well put.
Okay, so the engine is running. We've curated our data. Now we need to visualize it. We are moving to phase 4, the charts. The tutorial builds a donut chart for severity and a column chart for likelihood.
Standard charts, but the execution is what matters.
The expert in the video does some cleanup work that completely changes the vibe. They just strip everything away.
This is the data-ink ratio concept, famously coined by Edward Tufte. You want to remove anything that isn't data.
Right.
The standard Excel chart comes with a border, a white background, and grid lines. It looks like a box that's just been pasted onto a sheet.
It looks clunky.
So they remove the grid lines from the entire sheet view grid lines off. That is step 1 for any professional dashboard. Then for the charts themselves, they select no outline and no fill.
So the charts just kind of float on the canvas.
Exactly. It makes the interface look seamless. It starts to look like a proprietary piece of software, not a spreadsheet.
I did want to ask about the donut chart, though. I feel like data scientists always hate on donut charts and pie charts.
Ah, the donut chart. I knew this was coming.
Right. They say they are hard to read. Why does this tutorial use one?
You're right. Pure data analysts often dislike them because it's hard for the human eye to compare the area of slices. However, for a quick glance dashboard, they are very effective.
Oh, so.
A manager wants to see a big red chunk versus a small green chunk. They aren't measuring degrees, they are measuring sentiment. Is the red part big? Yes. Okay, panic.
It's emotional data reading.
In a way, yes.
So we have a beautiful, clean interface, but we still have that human element we talked about, the garbage in problem, the person who types likely with a space.
The user, the most dangerous part of any system.
Phase 5 is about locking them down. The source introduces data validation.
Drop-down menus. This is non-negotiable. The tutorial sets up a strict list for the status column. Actioned, not actioned, WIP, and on hold.
So you literally cannot type doing it now or almost done.
You can't. You have to pick from the list. This standardizes the language. If everyone uses the same terms, you can actually track progress. If everyone uses their own slang, you can't build a report.
Of course, they color code these too.
Yes. WIP might be blue. Action is green. It gives you that instant visual feedback loop.
Now, for the polish, the source adds icons. A little truck for transport, a pen for risk assessment. Is this just decoration?
Not entirely. Icons act as visual anchors. If you are scanning a dense screen, an icon of a truck helps your eye jump to the logistics section faster than reading the word logistics. It breaks up the wall of text.
There was also a quick tip about branding that I thought was really smart, using page layout themes.
Oh, this is a career hack. If you are building this for your company, don't just pick random colors. Go to page layout, go to colors, and customize colors. Put in your company's specific RGB codes.
So if I work at, say, John Deere, I put in the specific John Deere green and yellow.
Exactly.
Right.
And then every chart you create, every table style, automatically uses those colors. It makes the tool look like it was built by the IT department for $50,000, even though you built it in an afternoon.
It adds authority.
Authority is the right word. People trust a tool that looks professional.
We are in the home stretch now, phase 6. We've built the house, painted the walls. Now we need to lock the doors. We talked about hiding the raw sheet.
Right. You have to hide the kitchen. Right-click the tab, select Hide. This prevents the Curious George user from clicking around, deleting a formula, and breaking the whole dashboard.
But there was one final debate in the source material that I found really counterintuitive. It was about freezing panes.
The frozen pane controversy.
So, standard advice, if I have a long list, I freeze the top row so I can always see the headers. If I scroll down to row 100, I still want to know that column C is severity.
Of course.
But the creator of this tutorial advises against it.
In this specific context, yes.
Why? I feel lost without my frozen headers.
Because of the output medium. The expert notes that this document is often printed.
Printed in 2026.
In supply chain, absolutely. Think about the environment. You are in a warehouse. You might not have a tablet. You have a clipboard. Or you are in a boardroom where they hand out paper packets.
Okay, fair point.
When you freeze panes in Excel, it creates a visual break. Sometimes when you try to print that view or convert it to PDF, the frozen line cuts across text, or it repeats the header on every page in a way that just looks glitchy.
So it's a formatting nightmare.
Exactly. If you know this is going to be viewed on a screen, freeze away. But if there's even a 1% chance this ends up on paper, keep the sheet fluid. It's about knowing your audience's constraints.
That is such a specific, practical detail. It reminds you that we aren't just building software. We are building a tool for a specific job site.
Context is everything.
So let's look at what we've built here. We didn't just type a list. We created a psychological architecture. We started with a clear, bold structure to signal intent. We used color not for art, but for cognitive triage.
We built a calculation engine in the background, the raw sheet, that separates the mess from the message. And we filtered out the noise by ignoring low-impact risks in our top-line numbers.
We locked down the user input with drop-downs so the data stays clean. We visualized it using that less is more principle. And we designed it to survive the real world, whether that's a screen or a clipboard.
It's a command center. It turns panic into a plan.
And the beauty is, this isn't just for supply chain, is it?
Not at all. Change the headers. Instead of supplier, write candidate. Instead of severity, write skill gap. Now you have an HR hiring dashboard.
Right.
Change it to bug priority and fix time, and you have a software development dashboard. The logic, categorize, count, visualize is universal.
It's a framework for problem solving.
It really is.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave the listener with something to chew on. We talked about that total risk calculation, that choice to hide the low-impact risks.
The signal-to-noise ratio.
It makes you wonder about your own reporting. We spend so much time trying to be transparent, trying to show every single piece of data we have.
Because we think volume equals value. Look how much work I did. Here are 500 rows of data.
But maybe true value is the courage to delete rows.
I think so. The question is, in your weekly report, are you showing the data that helps your boss make a decision? Or are you just showing them that you were busy?
If you deleted the bottom 50% of your dashboard right now, the green stuff, the noise, could anyone even notice?
And if they wouldn't notice, why are you writing it?
That is a terrifying thought to end on. Go audit your spreadsheets. That's it for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
Happy analyzing.